ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Saturday Morning D&D Show. My name is Jordan, with a silent PH in the middle, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, Sir Lucian over at Sir Lucian Gaming. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Are
last
you...
day of the year. Should
Yeah.
do this last night or tonight.
It is. It's if you're in the future, like Danimal, it's already 2023.
Yeah, that's crazy.
He was
He's
in yes, a quick start today. Thank you, Zis. Yeah, he was posted a bunch of New Year's stuff yet last night, so
that's awesome.
So he lives in the future. That's really cool. We do not live in the future. We're set in our ways in the past, and so we will be celebrating tonight. I went to a musical last night, which was fun to get out of the house and go see something pre-New Year's Eve. And then we have a party to go to tonight, which will be a lot of fun to see friends and just ring in the new year. And then I will be playing Dungeon Crawl Classics on Sunday. So all in all, I think it's a great way to bring in the new year, and I'm quite excited.
All the best ways to do it. Yeah, I think we're just having a couple people over, nothing too crazy, but it's time. It's there. 2023. We'll be typing that into our,
writing it on our checks. Who writes checks these days? I don't know.
Yeah, who does? All them big checks you're getting, probably. Yeah, I know. Jordan.
And I'm like, could you make this out to? Yeah, it doesn't actually have a PH in it. I'm sorry, it's just stick.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We kind of have a lot of stuff to talk about, but we could talk about all of it or none of it. And I kind of thought maybe we'd talk about the year in review. And so you guys can't see this, but in our notes I went through earlier, and I kind of wrote down all of the books that came out that Wizards of the Coast released, and then some of the more notable third-party things that got released.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we could just talk about, like, what was your favorite kind of a thing. But first, the big news, I guess, is there's going to be a brand new open game license coming out for 1D&D. And a lot of people are worried and upset. I don't know if Lucian, if you are in those same circles, but I'm hearing a lot of stuff from a lot of people.
I've been seeing a lot, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
let's say a lot of creators.
Yes.
And those who like to create Dungeons and Dragons official 5.0.
Well, to be able to say that it is compatible. Like, and I think that's what the OGL allows us to do, is to be like, hey, I made this for this specific system
thing.
And that is going to go away. So I put some links in the description, but long story short, we've been talking about how the new CEO feels that D&D is under monetized. And I think this is one of the ways they wanted to be more monetized. And to be clear, I am totally for the little guy. And so the fact that like big Hasbro made almost $1 billion off of D&D, and the third-party publishing market is 1% of that, but they're still like, well, we better get money from them, is a little greedy. And I think that for the betterment of the game and the business and all this other stuff. But so I've been doing a lot of research on this. We won't know for sure until the new OGL comes out. But it's going to be called 1.1. The old one is 1.0 or 1.0A. And this one, the 1.1, is pretty restrictive from what they're saying. You're going to have to... It only covers printed and digital written media, so like PDFs. So before, you could use the OGL to make things like video games, which is how we saw Solasta and other things like that. Or you could use it for a lot of different things. It was kind of this like open-ended thing, too open for Wizards, I believe. They regretted it. And we know they regretted it because for 4th edition, they didn't release 4th edition under the OGL. They released it with the game system license, which was highly restrictive and had the main caveat in that is that they could update the license anytime for any reason or no reason at all. And this new license is going to have a similar wording. And so a lot of third-party publishers never jumped onto the game system license for 4th edition, because they were worried that if their content got too popular, Wizards would yank it out from underneath them. which is a valid concern because what do we see now? We see Wizards not trying to make a better product, but rather to stifle other creators so that their product is on top. And I think that's really sad. We were talking a lot about it on Thursday, and me and Lex and Ted and poor Rachel, who was in our Great Modron March game, the three guys, we were just like, oh, this is so awful. And then Rachel's like, what's going on? And I felt so bad because I'm like, oh, you're not clued into the drama. We'll tell you a little bit. So I don't know what this means for original 5e, because a lot of this is just, it says they say D&D. They don't specifically say like one D&D. They just kind of say like D&D's content and stuff. But I assume you'll be able to print under the old one, but a lot of people are saying maybe not. I don't know. What are your thoughts, sir? What does this mean for third party? Are we going to have another Pathfinder shift?
I mean, is that a bad thing? Right? We got Pathfinder because what happened with 4th edition, right? Something happens where the community doesn't like something that Wizards of the Coast does, Hasbro Wizards of the Coast does. And out of 4th edition and people not adopting it and it not going the way that people wanted it, we get Pathfinder and we have the OGL. So it allows them to go through and build that game. But now Pathfinder 2 is not built off OGL. Pathfinder 2 is its own game, right? So that's a whole company that's running Pathfinder 2. So we could have, is there a Pathfinder 2 OGL that everybody could shift to? Is there a Monty Cook OGL that people could shift to? You know, a lot of these companies do they offer that option, and then do creators just use that option?
And that's, you're right. So it's weird though, because even though Dungeon Crawl Classics and Pathfinder 2 are their own systems, they still have the OGL in the back. So it's kind of interesting.
Does Pathfinder 2 still have it? Or
I
thought
think
they built
so.
That different.
Well, maybe they built it differently enough. I'm not sure. Maybe they didn't put it in.
I'll have to look that up.
Anyway, but I know that it's in Dungeon Crawl Classics, and I was like, oh, that's kind of spooky if the original gets nullified, which everybody is saying that it can't, but I know that Wizards wants to get rid of the original, so it's kind of interesting, and it's a weird world. But here, I was talking about it with some friends, and I was talking about it with my wife. If you're taking a money hit either way, because either I sign this contract and I make content for one D&D, but I have to pay Wizards for the contract and I have to do all this stuff, and there's like a lot of weird legal stuff with Wizards, or I make stuff for for another system that is less popular and I make less money. So it feels like either way you're making less money, and I just think that's sad because the act of making this allowed creators to be like, well, I'm going to just make less money next year. Like, that's what it's coming down to.
Yeah. And I always try to compare it still to like a music or movie or other creative endeavor, where if you said, hey, look how popular Avengers is, and I want to get on some of that money, so I'm going to create some content based off Avengers, nobody looks at you and thinks, yeah, right, like Disney's not going to come down on you like a ton of bricks.
Exactly, yeah.
But the moment Hasbro does something like that, all of a sudden it's, you know, the greatest evil in the countryside. And it's not really from most of the community. I think it's just from those that create content, or those that are going to or have ran really big Kickstarters and are looking at this like because you haven't, I mean, the only OGL thing you did is put on your adventure, and anything else? Did you do more than one? You did more than one thing, right?
So I made an adventure, but that's through the DMsGuild. So I don't own that.
So you had to give it to them anyway.
Yeah,
so
I don't. Well, I didn't have to, but I did because it was an experiment.
Yeah. Right.
The Pathfinder 2 does use the OGL, is what I'm being told. Interesting.
So for you, it doesn't, like, there's no difference for what you have done in all of your content creating for 5e, unless they somehow decide they're going to come down on YouTube channels now that are talking about 5e.
That's a scare.
I mean, maybe they could.
Yeah, there's a couple of people because I operate as a YouTube channel through a fan content policy, but they could also update that. So it's kind of weird because if they look at this and they're just like, we think Jordan's making too much money off of YouTube. And honestly, it's probably not me. It's someone like Matt Colville or the Dungeon Dudes who
big
have had
channels,
those $1 million Kickstarters plus their thing. And I think Critical Role is in the pockets of Hasbro now. I think they have made behind the scenes negotiations to be okay with this transition.
Well, they could probably buy a license, right? Because there's wording in there that
the other
says
thing,
if you have a licensing thing, and that Hasbro could always make that really good or really high or really terrible depending on who they're working with. So some people, maybe they like them and they get a licensing deal that's fantastic, maybe the Critical Role group. Exactly. But then somebody else that's like a toy manufacturer named Komi from Japan, they're going to do their normal, here's our licensing agreement, here's the amount.
They don't have the lawyers to fight Hasbro.
Yeah.
Whereas Critical Role probably does, and they know if they hurt, Hasbro knows if they hurt Critical Role as a brand, they're going to hurt D&D as a brand, so they don't want to do that. But it's just sad because it always comes down to the little guy. The little guy can't fight very well, and I just feel like, yes, I as a creator, like, I want to make monsters for role-playing games. I can go make a monster book for Dungeon Crawl Classics or for the Cypher system or for the Year Zero engine. And I can hire amazing artists. But if we look back at all of the very successful Kickstarters, they weren't very successful unless they had that 5e compatible sticker on them. And that's what made them go from $30,000 Kickstarters to like $500,000 Kickstarters or more. Right.
And the mercenary take on that is somebody wants to make more money off of that brand.
Yeah.
What should you pay for that? What should you have to give up for being able to make more money?
So, and I don't know, because you're right. I had a fun analogy that I put together for I wrote a script that I never released.
Yeah, I don't know what's right or wrong.
No, I wrote a script that I never released, but it was the idea of, I equated this to the Wizarding World, because we have the Wizarding World. They're trying to make it a whole movie thing, based on the books, J.K. Rowling. So let's think about it as a company. Warner Brothers owns the Wizarding World. And what if they were like, you know what? We want to make the Wizarding World like a really big, cool, open thing. We're going to release the Wizarding Open, or the Open Wizarding license, the OWL. And I can make a movie or a TV show or a novel or a short whatever based in the Wizarding World. I just can't use Harry Potter, and it can't be at Hogwarts, and it can't do, like, there's certain restrictions.
Well, there's a list of things you can use, but then there's stuff left off of that. That's
correct. So if they created something like that, it would be like, but can you imagine the amount of creativity? Like, how many people write fan fiction already for Harry Potter without getting anything? They just love it. And I was thinking about that, and I'm like, but if you could make money off of your passion for that, that would be really cool. Well, here's the problem is that what if some of those shows are more popular than your core Wizarding World movies? And it's like, oh, I don't like that. I want to stop that. And that's kind of what's happening, is some of these third-party D&D books have better quality, better stories, better monsters than actual first-party Wizards of the Coast D&D. And I think they see that, and they're like, ooh. But rather than trying to build a better product, they're going a different route of, we want to control a bunch of this stuff. And I don't know how, I don't like that. I think that's kind of sad, because I'm like, you should just want to make a better product, Wizards. Like, hire more people on your team, do more playtesting. I don't know. Or like, see what MCDM is doing and be like, can we help you? They did it with Penny Arcade. They were like, because Penny Arcade was going to make Acquisitions Incorporated a Kickstarter. And then Wizards stepped in and said, like, well, we'll produce it, So there's just little things like that, but.
Well, and there's differences, I think, between Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro in some ways, where I think the relationship with AC Inc., Jerry Holkins and them, was with Wizards more than it was with Hasbro. So they partnered with him, and they had the right to partner with whoever they want to write the book, versus Hasbro coming in and saying, hey, let's get a lock on the licensing IP of this whole thing. And to me, I always think too, I know I must be on the minority of this whole thing, because I think if I started creating stuff that was all about Jordan and all I did was rewatch your videos, and it was me reacting to your videos, and all of a sudden I've got 1 million views off of Jordan's Forgotten Realms channel. Your channel's doing its thing. You love doing your thing. You're not doing anything different. Nothing's changed for you. But I do $1 million channel. You're looking at my YouTube subscribers at 1 million, and I'm making big bank. Where's your feeling on that? Is it, hey, great, because Lucian's a creator and he's put on his boots and he's picked up his straps and he's doing great? Or is it, hey, wait a minute, he's just watching my content. He's just, and then just talking about it or reacting or answering stuff or saying, oh yeah, I remember that part when I read it in this book. Like, where's your feeling on that? Because to me, when you're using somebody else's IP to create your product that you're going to then sell to the public, wouldn't that be very similar?
It would, except I don't get the right to be angry if I put all of my content under Creative Commons.
But it isn't YouTube.
Well, but that's what Wizards did. Is the OGL said you can do this and make money off of it, and they're trying to take that back, I think. And so that's my point. Like, I would be upset. I would be upset because I'm like, oh my gosh, he's just literally rehashing my stuff and doing that. But if I said, guys, this is Creative Commons, I don't think I have a leg to stand on, you know? And that's what they did, is they were like, they regret making that decision, but I don't know. So
I was missing your point. So your point is that we could do it, but it's being taken away. And that's where your frustration, let's say your personal frustration comes from, versus that had that never been there in the first place, that you couldn't do it, that they didn't make this available to you, and they were always
if Wizards had never
like
released...
everybody else, because nobody else has an OGL out there. Does Goodman Games have an OGL?
No,
they're all using OGL.
But Monty Cook Games made their own version. Yeah. Other companies like Free League, they use the Wizards of the Coast OGL to... So maybe I should give a history lesson on the OGL. So they make this license called the Open Game License. And then part of that license is me as a company can donate things and call it open game content. And that's what the SRD is. So me at Wizards, I make a 3rd edition system reference document and I donate that as open game content. And now that I've done that, I can't take it back. It's open game content. Anybody can look at that and use parts of that, reference that, but they have to put this license in the back of their book. So then for 4th edition, they didn't do that because people were making games and they didn't like it. And then for 5th edition, it was like, we actually made a lot of the community and the other publishers really sad. We're going to release 5th edition. So they made a 5e system reference document and put it into this OGL as open game content. Now I can't take it back. It's there forever. Like, whatever they did, it can't take it back. And that's per the contract that they created. So anything that's open game content. So you have Free League. They were like, oh, that's really cool. They made an SRD and used that same license to put their, like, here's the system reference document for Free League games, and we'll put it as open game content. Now anybody can take it. And a lot of other people have done stuff, and they're like, yeah, let's just kind of throw it in. And it's a little different than Creative Commons, but it's very similar, I think, where it's like, you just have to acknowledge that you got this from somebody else, kind of a thing. But you can't take it back. Now, I did do a lot of research on this, and Monty Cook Games, they made their own license. So when they release stuff, it's not open game content. You have to agree to that license, but you can still use parts of their game for free. But it's a different license that they're like, we don't want Wizards of the Coast to have their claws in this at all, kind of a thing.
Which is where
I would be upset.
All creators would go to. Yeah.
So I would be upset if you're right. If somebody gave me something for free for the last 22 years and now they're trying to take it back, that's where I would be upset, because entire businesses have made a living off of this. And now people can't, maybe not.
Well, and you keep saying that, though, there's money thresholds, right? So there are certain people that this doesn't affect at all and no change really happens.
Yeah.
It's only if you were about to have a $5 million Kickstarter that you were affected. And your effect at that point right now is that you have to report your revenue to them, and then that's it.
You have to report your revenue if it's over $50,000, and you have to pay a percentage if it's over $750,000. but Wizards of the
So-
Coast has the right to update that agreement without
750 grand. Yeah, I got
to whatever. So it could be like, if they start seeing like, oh, actually there's a lot of $200,000 Kickstarters, next year we'll release a license that says now you have to pay us if it's under $200,000 Kickstarter or something. So I don't know.
And right. So then you just decide, do you want to work with that company or not if they're constantly raising? Because you're kind of like forecasting the doom, right? So all
I
right,
am.
So then you
I
just say
am.
whether I work with them or not.
But
so then
yeah.
when your research, one other question,
Mhm.
I thought they also said that the change with the 750,000 affects 1% of creators that were out there. So that means 99% of creators would not be paying Wizards of the Coast anything and still continue to do what they do.
Correct.
And did you find that in your research that was not a bogus number? The 1% was like 5 or 6 people.
It's about 20 creators from what my sources tell me.
Okay, so about 20. Okay, so about 20 companies.
Yeah, creator companies. Yep.
Because nobody's doing it probably off of their name. All of them.
But
have
you're not
companies
counting.
that they've created,
you're not
probably.
counting Patreon money. Like, it's not just Kickstarter money. It's complete.
Oh,
like,
sure. No, yeah.
So
they must know though somehow. I don't know how. Where I was just wondering if somehow that had come up.
I heard
who that
that
1%
Wizards lawyers are talking to Kickstarter lawyers to get the information before it goes to the actual people. So it's kind of, I don't know, it just feels real weird.
Yeah, because you don't know. Your Kickstarter could be a $50,000 Kickstarter. Your Kickstarter could be a
well,
$2 million
and here's the thing: is like I know how much my Kickstarter made, but like I don't know. Let's use Matt Colville for an example. I don't know how much money Matt Colville is making on Patreon, plus the Kickstarter, plus sales of his books. But it feels weird to me that I'm a business and I have to report my earnings to Hasbro, which somebody pointed out that it's like free market research for Hasbro, because they're like, oh, people like this, we'll make a book that competes with that, you know.
And I think Ted said it was free. They're only reporting the earnings on the stuff you're making using the OGO, right? You're not reporting your earnings for your company.
Well, we'll see. I am doom and gloom. We can talk about other things, but like the rumor is the new license will come out January 4th.
Here's
And
what
so
I'm thinking.
if it does,
just to spin it.
We'll be able to read it, and then we'll have a very interesting show that Saturday.
I think here's the crazy thing. I think it's a bad thing that's going to generate a good thing, because all these companies that have been creating $5 million worth of content, $2 million, $750,000 worth of content are fantastic creators that people are willing to give them money to create content. And those people don't need to be tied to Dungeons and Dragons stuff. They can just do the same thing they're doing, be just as popular, I think, creating their own unique stuff from their own companies, using their own imagination, just like Monty Cook when he left, Wizards of the Coast and went and built his own company, built a successful company based off of not doing what Dungeons and Dragons is, but has things that are adjacent like Numenera and some of those pieces. And then still, I think it's good. I think that, it forces Pathfinder to be, you guys make your system. It forces, if, Critical Role, make your own system. We would not be any worse if they create a brand new role-playing system that's innovative and cool and different that we can choose from and use. Let's make, Kobold Press, make your own cool. You've got creative people that can create really cool stuff. I'm sure you can decide what dice system you want to use, and I'm sure you can come up with a million creatures that you don't even need the OGL for anymore, because you're making monster books where you're not trying to use beholders and all that stuff that's in that anyways. You're just trying to say, here's monsters things. I guess you're trying to put the stat block in. Maybe the stat block is
that's part of the SRD, is like the formatting of the stat block.
But you can get around that if you're like, these are my things, and if you want to use it in another game, use it in another game. I think it pushes those creators to create their own and for themselves. Mm-hmm. And that makes them more like Wizards and Hasbro, create for them and themselves. Monty Cook, create for you and yourselves and in your community. Goodman Games, create for yourself, you and your community. Kobold Press.
Yeah.
And
Monty Cook's a great example because you're absolutely right. He left and he made his own company. And they're one of the few companies I know that just have their in-house designers that design games and
Yeah.
do stuff. But
And maybe
yeah.
because the OGL existed, we're in the current state we are now.
Yeah.
Because it was easier for us just to latch on to that game and
the
do it that
audience
way.
of Dungeons and Dragons was there, and I can make that. And so I hope you're right. I hope that there's a shift of ideas and people play more games and different games, because I think there's more to the world than Dungeons and Dragons, even though I love it. But like, I love Numenera and I love playing other games, and so we'll see. I don't know. Yeah. I'm really curious. But like I said, the rumor is next week we'll see a full license, and then I think either the world will blow up or take a sigh of relief. We'll see.
Yeah. I hope it's a change. I mean, I don't like it either when the music companies decided they wanted you to pay for every single time you listen to a song or something versus you buy a record and it's yours, and you can't use parts of songs in another song or remix it into your own song version to do whatever. I'm only using 2 seconds of this clip, but you're really still using Michael Jackson singing on your song to make, that kind of stuff. It's weird to me, and it's a gray area, and YouTube is that weird kind of gray area sometimes too, because even like Jordan, and don't get mad at me, Jordan, I'm not just saying, even your channel where you're using artwork based off of artists that aren't necessarily tied to you or monetary value from your videos could raise a stink, right? They could be like, hey, this dude is making money off of me because he's putting up pictures of stuff I do, and he didn't pay me any money for all the hard work I did on that, right? And so there's this weird gray area of common.
It's called fair use, and it is a gray area. That's the word you're looking for, I think. Yeah. And nobody can decide fair use except a judge in a court.
It's so weird.
And so it has to be like a by person. So a lot of people just get by. Specifically for my channel, I'm not trying to take advantage of artists. I operate under the fair use of Wizards of the Coast. So any Wizards of the Coast art I use is fair use to do X, Y, and Z. Because Wizards owns that, and they have given permission to do that. They could take that permission away, and then I don't know what happens. But
and maybe your channel isn't, because you're actually pretty diligent about what you use. I probably should have used yours as an example, but I think there are plenty of other D&D channels that are using art from all over the place.
No, they are.
They're not just using.
Like, even though I read something and wrote my own version of it, and I read it with my voice. You're absolutely right. Like, I didn't come up with that. That's not a story Jordan wrote. It's not a public domain story. Is that okay for him to do that? To summarize stuff like that? But how many people are like, hey, I watched this movie. I'm going to summarize it for you, and I'm going to give you my opinion. It's a weird gray area. You're right. And I think we're going to firmly know in the future if you can copyright game mechanics. Because some people are like, no, you can't. And other people are like, is that a game
dice
mechanic?
Rolling system?
And like, it's kind of like, I don't know. And I think we're going to find out. So, but boy, it's interesting.
I think that one gets shot down. I hope it gets shot down. Or maybe we get new dice, and maybe we get new rolling systems, and maybe it forces it. A bad thing forces a good thing. It forces
the D6 system.
Creative
comes
people
back.
Will be creative.
They will. That's the thing.
You're not going to stop their creativity unless they were only in it for the money. Because if they're only in it for the money and then that dries up, then their creativity wasn't driving them. But if it was creativity that was driving them, they will find a way to create.
And I think the people that
paint it on the side of a building if they have to.
The people that make RPGs are passionate about RPGs.
Yeah, Lex is the perfect example for me, because he could have easily, his brain could have said, you know what, I could jump on this bandwagon and all the stuff I've been creating could be 5e compatible and kickstarted, and he could have jumped in early because he's been a prolific creator of content. I bet he could have easily been a big time 5e, but he didn't. He wanted to go his own way. He's doing his own thing. He's building musical albums for the stuff he's putting out. Only using the OGL piece, but really sticking with. He doesn't even use the OGL.
He's just like, this is something I made.
Or making his own, or he is so much, and because that's the creative he is. And I think that's what all these creatives really should be. And I think they are when they dig deep down and say, oh yeah, I'm creative. I can do. Matt Colville's not going to sit back and say, oh, okay, we can't do 5e anymore and we're done. Close the doors. They're going to come up with ways to do their thing. I'm sure Paizo isn't ready to say, well, all right, it was a good run. Close it up.
No. Nobody's shutting down the doors. And
They're
honestly,
if cool things.
If Kobold Press, MCDM, and Critical Role got together and said, let's just make a game together,
another one,
and we'll all support it from various
benefit.
systems. Like if they all support it in different ways, think about like the consumer wins, you know, like, oh my gosh,
we become the Saturday morning, whatever that show is. And then we don't even have to be the Saturday morning.
Do we have to change our name to the Saturday
us.
morning RPG show? Do we got to change our name in 2023?
Or whatever their new name is. Yeah, whatever they come together. We're making the open system. We're the Saturday morning open system show.
There is Basic Fantasy, which is like open and whatever. So
yeah. Well, and there's Genesis, and there's lots of dice systems. There's Powered by the, you know, there's all these cool things that we get because there were people who said, "I'm not going to do the D&D thing. I'm not doing Wizards of the Coast thing." Fine, they love rolling D20s. They love setting their stuff up this way, but I'm going to be different, and I'm going to build something different. And I think if we encourage that, because there's rules that restrict you making money off of the other way, great, because now we're going to get all these people that are looking, well, maybe I should do a D6 system, or maybe I should do a D20. Maybe my system's going to be a D12, Jordan. Maybe the most optimal dice out there's been D12 this whole time, and nobody knew it, and I'm going to make a system that proves it, you know?
It is the most beautiful of the platonic solids.
Yes,
so
I love it.
And nobody rolls for D12.
So good.
So then, well, we'll move on, but like there was a bunch of products that came out for Wizards of the Coast for D&D. And I wanted to know if you had a favorite this year, because like I was let down by a little bit of them. Spelljammer came out, obviously. Dragonlance, I will admit I have not even read because I just wasn't interested and I was kind of sad. Monsters of the Multiverse, Call of the Netherdeep, Dragons of Stormwreck Isle, and we got, and Journey Through the Radiant Citadel. And then there was some online stuff like the Vecna Dossier and Monstrous Compendium Volume 1 and 2. I think that's all that came out for Wizards of the Coast in 2022. Did you have a favorite? Did you have something that lived up to expectations? Or
Radiant Citadel, I thought was a great book. Yeah. Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel. Wait a minute. We had a book that brought us more classes and stuff, though, right? This year, there must have been.
I don't think so. Did we?
That was only in 2021.
I think this is because I looked on Wikipedia and I think this is it.
Oh, that's amazing. Nothing.
Am I missing anything, chat? You can let me know.
Chat?
2022.
Tasha's Cauldron was 2021 then?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't 2022, I'll tell you that. But let's look. And
then after that,
and then of course the big buying of D&D Beyond was in 2022.
That was the other big thing, but that, yeah. That, and I guess I know I'm not as down on Spelljammer as you are. I realize you wanted the ship battle mechanics to be more robust for a game called Spelljammer. But I like that it was a 3-set box set, had 3 books in it, brought back Spelljammer when we were all clamoring and asking for you to bring it back so that we could play. And we always could. It's always this weird thing. Like there was never a time we couldn't play Spelljammer. It's just in our heads. We wanted them to re-release it because they re-release other things that are pretty popular and common. So if they were going to do that, why not bring Spelljammer back? And they did the meme of it for so many years as if they were never going to do it. And then we did get it. Journeys Through Radiant Citadel is at the top because I just loved reading it and the really different views. It was a really different adventure book scope wise and just compared to the other ones because they had just such different writers and just really
good perspectives.
To a really different thing that I've not seen a lot of. You know, it wasn't a rehash of a lot of different things. It was a really cool idea, and it feeds into, if I want to run a Spelljammer campaign, I want to start my group in Radiant Citadel or get them to Radiant Citadel, and that be the launching off point of them and their Spelljamming adventures. Doing all the Spelljamming.
Kind of combine the ethereal with the astral and stuff. Yeah, that could be fun.
Yeah.
I loved the lore
so I think
of
those
it.
Are my two.
I loved Radiant Citadel is still my favorite too. But like I really loved the lore of it, of having a new base of operations. And the adventures were very fun, but I loved the idea of this like cool city on a crystal in the ethereal plane. We've never had a city in the ethereal plane, so it was a big new thing for Dungeons and Dragons. But to answer your question,
like new lore.
Yeah, new lore. We rarely get new lore, it feels like. So to answer your question, 2021, the end of 2021 had Fizzbands, which had Fizzbands Treachery of Dragons, which did have class stuff in it and new dragon stuff. Strixhaven, which had a little bit new spells and new mechanics. And then Van Richten's Guide was also in 2021. But 2022, I don't think we got any player options.
We didn't get no Magic of the Gathering book in 2022?
Not that I know of.
Holy crap. How is that possible? 2021 was such a good year.
I guess Dragonlance had new stuff in it. I should say that.
So if you match that up with the list of 2021, like the books, if you just said, Lucian, what are your favorite 2021 books? I'd be like lost because of all the really cool stuff. So 2022. So
Fizzbands and Van Richten's Guide and Strixhaven, Wild Beyond the Witchlight, Candlekeep Mysteries, Domains of Delight. That's what was released in 2021. So
it's amazing to me some of these books are as old as they are then. Because really, if you like, my favorite 5e book is probably Tasha's, because it just had so many really good
that was
things
November
that I
2020.
still use all the time. Yeah. But if we're just containing it to this year's releases, I'm going to go with Radiant Citadel. What did you say was yours?
No, I would agree. I think it's Radiant Citadel as well. I was most excited for Spelljammer, but I just it didn't live up to the hype. Although now that I have figured out my own rules, which I made a video about, I took the AD&D rules and kind of 5V'd them, and then I released them for free on the DMsGuild, so you can go get them there. It's not pretty, but it's like a Google document. But it got the point across that I wanted, which is like you can make it. And I will say I didn't read Dragons of Stormwreck Isle, so I'm not really sure. That might be a good one.
Well, that
too.
one I didn't
That's a starter
get,
set.
so maybe I would like it.
Yeah.
And it because I did like the Phandelver starting set. I did like the re-released one they had done just before that too. This is the second one, right? Or the third re-release starter set. Maybe it is good, and I don't have that one. I wasn't too big on, the Dragonlance. I think it's cool that they brought it back, but I wasn't the big fan there. Critical Role books are okay, but I just don't ever see myself running Critical Role campaigns. I like watching them or hearing about what's gone on in them, but not like I'm ripping and raring to go to get a party in there myself. Monsters of the Multiverse is good, but that's just kind of more monster books, and I find getting monster books from Matt Colville or Cobalt Press better.
There wasn't a lot of... I don't think there were new monsters because they kind of condensed a lot of the other material into, like from Volo's guide and stuff, into one new guide. So I think it's a very good book. And a lot of people were like, do I need to buy it? I'm like, I don't think so, but I like having one book that has all of the like race options and stuff that I can present to my players rather than like, here's one from Volo's and here's one from this and stuff. So it's kind of nice.
I like your note in our notes, because really I think what this tells me is 2022 is the year of all the really cool third-party stuff that I liked.
Heck yeah! So I wrote down.
So many.
I think there's probably more than I could cover,
sure.
but I wrote down some of the ones that I was really excited about. But 2022 we got Tome of Beasts 3, which was huge, from Kobold Press. Tome of Heroes, which is a complete subclasses and stuff for your game, and some of those are so cool. Like if you want to run. I know that Sly Flourish is running a Kobold Press only D&D game right now, where he's using just their monster books and just Tome of Heroes, and then the player's handbook. And I think that's really cool that you could like take all of this, which kind of goes back to the OGL, where I'm like, I'm sure Wizards is like, I don't like that. Like, I want you to use Tasha's and I want you to use this and things, because they're like, that's what we made. But Tome of Heroes is really good. Kingdoms and Warfare, although that was a Kickstarter way early, finally came out in printed form and PDF in 2022, which really good. I like MCDM. I think I don't know if I'll use Kingdoms and Warfare as much as I used Strongholds and Followers, but I also need to like give it a good solid read again. And then Planebreaker from Monty Cook Games and the Planner Bestiary came out just in this month alone. And I don't own the Planner Bestiary yet, but if you're going to do a Planebreaker game, this bestiary, this monster book. And I know Monte Cook Games, they make good stuff. So
yeah.
were there any others that you could think of that you were like, oh man?
I mean, do you expand it out to anything that's 5e based? Because there was all kinds of Kickstarters that I kind of signed into or came in. Yeah. That it was just
I was saying for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, because there's so many Kickstarters, but yeah. So third party product, third party for D&D 5e. But man, there was a lot.
There's so many good things. Planebreaker is really up there, for sure. Pangea.
That's right. We got the Pangea PDF this year. I still don't have the physical book, but the PDF.
I don't have the physical book, but I have the full product book.
And Pangea,
and there were a couple other. Yeah, I think Planebreaker and my Tolus 5e version, Tolus. I love some of these re-releases of 5e or adventures that were not 5e based but are now. Mm-hmm. Tolus was a cool book that I got. I think it was this year that I got that one. But man, now I'm thinking maybe I got it in 2021. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we didn't even talk about the old Goodman Games was taking like Temple of Elemental Evil and making a 5e version of it. You know, like there's a lot of those that came out that were really good too. Geez, I don't even know. I'm looking at my Kickstarter now, but like Pangea, Planebreaker. Oh, I got this in the mail a couple days ago. Questlandia. This is a fun little RPG that I kickstarted that finally got the physical release of that. Came in.
So I'm waiting for. We should be getting both of the Kickstarters. I thought, well, I guess we're at the end of, so we're not getting it in 2020. Today's the last day. So if we didn't get it today, we're getting it in 2023. Never mind. I guess, I was thinking of WebDM and Venture Maidens.
Yeah. And that's the thing is
those physical books in 2023.
I have the Venture Maidens PDF, but again, physical books we don't have yet. So we'll count it for 2023 because I feel like that's when a product is finished. You kind of have
when you have it in your hands. Yeah. I agree.
But for me, it's Planebreaker. Like I'm still trying to figure out a way of, not that it's going to be hard, but I want to figure out using some of the Planebreaker stuff in my Great Modron March game, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. When they start exploring the Astral Sea, we're going to be doing a lot of like weird, cool flying around stuff. So
very cool, very cool.
Because that was just a beautiful book, but
crazy.
It was the year of Kickstarters, because I think in 2020 and 2021, it was like, oh, these are popular. They're making money. And then this year, I feel like everybody had a Kickstarter.
And I think it'll happen again through March, but I think it'll start to die off pretty soon too, as I think we hit the big flood of it, and maybe I think it'll pull back some. I wonder. So crazy. And we were talking in chat, I think it was a week or two ago. We're on year 5 almost.
Yeah, so it's our 5th anniversary this January, because we started January 1st. So next show basically will be our fifth anniversary, 230 shows. Today's the 230th show. So
that's crazy.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
So much D&D and other stuff in those 230 sessions, 230 hours, right? Like 1 hour shows for the most part. So good. Did you get to play some Dungeons & Dragons? Are you going to do like a New Year's Eve? Man, wouldn't that be a fun kind of tradition to do a New Year's Eve D&D game? So as the bell is tolling.
Yeah, no, we're just gonna we're just going to a regular party tonight. But I did play D&D on Thursday. I ran Great Modron, which was really fun. And then tomorrow we're starting Perils of the Purple Planet with my Dungeon Crawl Classics group. And we were all talking about it, and they're like, oh, yeah, well, if you want to meet in the evening, I guess we'll all be like done with our hangovers by then, and we can come over and play games.
We got Monday off,
awesome.
Right?
And I have Monday off, so I'm like, let's do it. So we're really excited. We're going to play Dungeon Crawl Classics. They have their characters built. We just need to... some of them kept their old characters, and some of them wanted to try a different one, so they tried a different one. Today I'm going to be reading through that to kind of get re-familiar with it and then start the adventure. But it's another sandbox, kind of like Hot Springs Island, and they're going to be running around. So
very cool. And tomorrow, officially starts Jordan's Dungeon 365
Yeah,
project thing, right?
Dungeon 23, Dungeon 2023.
Dungeon 23.
So we talked a little bit about this before. Sean McCoy who wrote Mothership and a bunch of other stuff. He had a fun idea of writing a dungeon, writing one room a day for an entire year. And then every month is an entire level of that dungeon. So by the end of the year, you have like 30-ish rooms on a level and 12 levels deep. And I was like, man, that's so cool. And just to be in the habit of writing every day. And he even said, he's like, if you're stumped, just write nothing in this room and move on. And I'm like, wow, that's so cool. So I wrote down a couple of like themes and a big bad that I kind of want to have. And I think what I want is that I'm going to have 6 floors that go down. And then I like the idea of gravity reversing itself. And then they're climbing up out of the dungeon the opposite way. Does that make sense? And then when they get up there, it's like Bizarro World or something. I haven't really figured it out yet, but I'm excited for that. So that's going to be
floor 1, room 1. Now, do you think tomorrow when you're writing floor 1, room 1, is this the entrance to the dungeon, or are you going to pick one of the random rooms and then decide your entrance room sometime?
Oh yeah,
not on the first day. Like you're not doing it as you move through it. You're doing it. Could be kind of random in there.
It could, yeah. In order to keep it together, I'm gonna write a room and expand out on it. But I was reading that they're like a good mega dungeon will have multiple entrances, or something that will teleport you to floor 5. But it's like I don't really want to write floor 5 yet because I haven't even figured out floor 1. In my mind, I've done some annotations to be like, if I want to teleport somebody, I'll be like, you can teleport back to this place. So if, later on, if I'm on floor 5 and I'm like, oh, this would be a good point to go back to the first floor, then I can create that connection because I kind of left it open there. But yeah, I'm going to start with the entrance to the dungeon, and kind of like our old school Essentials game we ran with the giant frog statue that you guys had to tell a joke and it opened its mouth and you climbed in. I like frogs, so I'm going to keep the frog motif, and I'm going to start with that be the entrance to the dungeon, is this frog thing. So
very Naruto.
Yeah.
The frog theme.
It'll be fun.
That's cool. Really so would January be just level 1?
Yeah. January is the level 1. And then it's really cool because you just write like 1-1, 1-2, and then it's the second room. So
yeah, so you're not going to start at the end. You're going to start at the beginning and work your way
and
to
go
the
down.
End.
Yep.
Some people could work their way at the end and work their way to the beginning.
Oh yeah,
in this
you can do whatever you want.
Thing would be kind of cool. Very
I
interesting.
encourage
and then
you,
in 2024, live action game of it. We run a campaign.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know if you'll. Yeah. There's going to be, I wonder, we were talking about it. It's kind of like NaNoWriMo or whatever, where you write a novel in November. Like a lot of people start, not everybody finishes. I wonder if I will even finish, but I'm going to try and make a weekly or bi-weekly video of like, here's my dungeon so far. And I'm hoping that those videos will keep me motivated to do it. Like, because if it's like, oh crap, I got to make a video, dungeon. And then, I'll make the video a little bit later. A little accountability just that I give myself, I guess. I don't know. I do that a lot where I'm like, oh, I got to get a video out. And it's like, my wife will be like, well, who? Do you have a sponsor? I'm like, no. Well, then you don't really have to make a video if you're stressed out about it. I'm like, I guess. So, but
I have to.
What a fun idea. Like, isn't that cool though? So I bought a notebook and everything, and I'm writing it down, and it's going to be fun. But yeah, tomorrow starts it.
I think for map jars too, I think they'd be really cool. I've seen some of them on Twitter talking about how they're thinking about doing it the same thing, where they're going to draw out, because they're known for being just, map creators doing the same thing. And that's such a cool idea. Nomadic,
Gnome, he streams a lot.
Yeah.
He has been posting really cool pictures on social media of, he's trying different map drawing styles with every week. He started early. But like his first week is like, I'm going to do this isometric one. And then the next one, it's like, we're going to do hexagons. And so he's kind of just using this as an activity to explore, like, which map version do I like the most? What would I find most useful? So Mega Dungeons
I'd love
to
see what Nate would do something with this. Nate.
Oh, yeah.
WASD would be great for this one too.
I wonder, but
Very
yeah,
cool.
it's I mean, mega dungeons are hit or miss. Not everybody likes them. I know you're enjoying your mega dungeon at the moment, but
We're in Dungeons of the
yeah.
Mad Mage still.
But
We didn't play,
honestly,
but yeah.
I think the idea is that you shouldn't necessarily run the whole dungeon, but this will be a
Not
cool thing
normal.
to have in my back pocket for like, oh, you found your way into a dungeon, and then they get this, wow, the world's a bigger place. Maybe they explore a few levels and they leave. But I like the idea that I can be like, oh no, MacGuffin is on, that's March 16th. You got to go to floor 3, room 16, and there's
Yeah,
the
there you
MacGuffin
go.
that you need for whatever reason, and that could be a lot of fun. So
That's very cool. Yeah, I'm excited to see the whole thing. Are you documenting it somewhere else besides the videos as recaps, or is there like a?
not yet, but maybe I could start a blog or something. I don't know, or I could put it on Patreon, just photos of my, because I like the handwriting of it, so I could take a photo of every week and maybe upload it to Patreon. Be kind of fun.
Cool. Very
Or
cool.
our Discord. Which one?
I would love it there. That'd be sweet.
What are you not going to participate? You gotta participate.
I should.
You're like a little busy.
I think it'd be cool. But the only thing I'm thinking is if I do it, then I'll do that thing where I'll want to draw it, I want to write it, I'll overboard it instead of just doing what it is and just be like you're doing, like, hey, I'm gonna hand draw it out and it's cool. I can put the book down and be done. And versus, no, I want to turn it into a product when it's all done. And then I just never start that.
I had to have a real conversation. Yeah. I had to have a real conversation with myself where I'm like, this isn't going, I'm not making money from this, but it'll be a good, it'll be really cool exercise in writing. That's what I'm looking forward to. So.
Yeah. And I want to get the Pathfinder 2 game off the ground. And I know that's going to take up basically creating a lot during all that time too. So that's it. But I do love this idea of just one room a day.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to draw it too. I want to see the physical representation so that at the end next year, I have something that I'm looking at that's like this whole.
Yeah.
I might do it. But I think if I would do it, I'm going to go like the quintessential anime role playing style. I would do the tower that they climb, like in Sword Art Online would be the way I would do it. So it'd be like the tower, in all those games and all those MMORPGs that are in animes that are supposed to be about real games where people go, if they're always trying to climb that tower. They're always trying to go higher and higher.
That would be really cool because I was thinking like, oh, you're right, it has to go down. It's a dungeon, but like that's really cool. You could definitely make it vertical, just a giant tower. Yeah. Well, I guess 12 stories isn't that tall, but maybe you do 10 story blocks, and make it 12 times 10 or 365 divided by 10
dragons in there. You've got to have a 4-story level anyway, so it's going to be pretty tall.
Yeah.
If you're going to try to fit something big in there, the big boss fights. Mm-hmm. I've been enamored by watching a lot of the animes that come out that are based off of people playing role-playing games. So the whole show is about somebody logging into their character and they're playing in this game, and then that's where the story is taking place, and that's what this anime is about. Sometimes it's they get caught in that world, sometimes it's just them playing in that world, something, but I always like that idea. Grimgar was another one, and just this idea of there's always these towers that are climbing with a bunch of and there's like a town set up, and there's a whole economy based off of the tower climbing adventure guild. And you join the adventure guild, that's the only way you can go in, kind of thing, that whole kind of concept.
Do a floor every week, and then you'll have a 52 story skyscraper.
Oh, that'd be sweet. A mountain.
And then on the other side of it, a cliff that goes nowhere. We have to figure out what that means.
I'm going to create the Google. It's going to be a Google Doc for me. I'm just going to Google Doc it.
I think that'd be great.
One room a day.
Tangent, but if you like that playing a game kind of thing that you're talking about, there's an RPG called Dot Dungeon you should check out, where you're playing yourself playing like an MMO. It's kind of cool. I was just reading about it again today. But
I've been waiting for the simulation games to come out, like how you can do like farmer simulation, and you can do construction simulation or car mechanic or build your own PC simulation. I've seen one that's called paper RPG simulator. So you're basically simulating the playing of a party, and you have your DM that you're selecting, and you have your party members, and they're doing their thing, but it's like a simulation of that. I think that'd be fun to do. But No, I want to be stuck in, I keep waiting for, Ready Player One to happen to all of us, right? So that we can virtually jump into those worlds where
Yeah.
we can get to play. And I'm just enamored by reading those types of things. Or even Lit RPG is all about game systems and living in a game system, or just having stories based in game systems. And I just love it. So this sounds cool. I'm creating the doc right now as we speak. It's happening on this show the day before, 4 minutes to go within the show. I'm going to my Google Docs right now to create.
Well, while you're doing that, did you play any games that you want to talk about? Do you have any goals for 2023 besides this new dungeon now?
Yeah, get Pathfinder 2 game running.
Yeah.
Probably with, I want to see if I can maybe find some people from the community again, like I did with Seeking Revenor. Find some people that want to play Pathfinder 2. That, I thought that was really fun. That's how I met Danimal. That's how I met a lot of these people, and they played in some of those games and now have become really good friends, is by setting a game up from that community, from either that or the YouTube or the show community, and just saying, hey, let's play this game together. So that's my big, I think, 2023. I want to get my setup back going again. I've been rewiring and redoing everything here, so I want to get that back set up and going again. And then games I'm looking forward to are just, it's all over the place because there's so many good games right now, and it's just how much time are we going to have, and can we start to get together again versus, we're out of the COVID kind of lockdown. I would love to get a in-person game going again at a table, but that's such a hard thing to just spontaneously make happen. Either you can do it or you can't, right? It's just weird.
No, it's
be able to get people at your table.
I've been very blessed, and I'm excited because we went almost 2 years without having anybody at my gaming table, and now this bi-weekly Dungeon Crawl Classics game has meant the world to me, to just be able to sit down, pen and paper. I don't mind playing online, but I really do prefer to just have fun with my friends at the table. So yeah.
So that was it. We didn't play our game because our dungeon master is on holiday in Australia. He decided to go to the beach. So I was here snow blowing and shoveling snow. He was on the beach in a hammock watching his kids swim in the ocean, which is super awesome and fun. So we have not played in the last 2 weeks, and then we'll be picking up again next week on Thursday. We switched our game to Thursday.
That's my game. We gamed the same night. That's so cool. See?
So that
Danimal must be having Danimal must be having a good vacation because he's not here right now. So
that's true. Yeah, exactly. He's been posting on Discord and stuff what he's been doing, and he took his computer with him, but we didn't play anything, so that's been fun. So the other thing we're doing is a few of our friends, we've been reading a book called He Who Fights Monsters. And the system in it is so good that we've been kind of working together to build how would we play this on the tabletop, because we love it so much. So we have this Discord channel running that's been talking about what would the rules look like, and what would the classes look like, and how would you get your abilities, and how would you roll that stuff. So I'm hoping to keep that kind of momentum going with, they're all real life friends that I have that live here in Michigan, and Danimal is the other person that's kind of contributing to, because we all read it. That's He Who Slays Monsters, I think is the name of it.
No, I found one. It's a lit RPG, He Who Fights with Monsters.
That's it? He Who Fights with Monsters from Jorphdan.
Yeah, it's a 9-book series. So
yeah,
I have to check it out.
All of us just finished book 9 like in the last day or so, and we're just like, oh, we got to make this system. We got to play in it. How would we be playing in it? So if anybody wants to see the big thing that we're interested in, is read book 1 of that, and I think you'll really enjoy it. It's actually a really good book. It's a quick read if you are looking for something just to have on your Kindle, or
it looks like it's audiobook too, so you could listen to it at work or something.
Those guys do the audiobook, and the main character is Australian. His name is Jason.
Nice.
And through a weird thing that happens just in the front of the book, he gets transported to another world and has to decide how he's going to live and what he's going to do in this other world. And that's how the story starts. It's just and I like that he's Australian, because he has a very Australian attitude. And I hear Danimal's voice, Australian DM. when I read it. So I read it. I don't listen to the audiobook because I want his voice to be my narrator.
That's funny.
So I hear all his stuff, and it's just a really cool thing. So those are the things I'm pushing for 2023. Looking for all those good Kickstarters that I like to buy. Looking for all the book releases. I'm kind of interested. We know what books we're getting from Dungeons and Dragons that are coming pretty soon.
Yep.
There's a few more that are still left that sounds super interesting to me in that lineup.
He's from the Golden Vault, which I think is the next one coming out, and that's an anthology book. We'll see what it is. There's Planescape at the end of the year, and I think a Giants book, which is kind of like the Fizz Bands, but it's about giants. So, and then we'll have a lot more 1D&D stuff coming out as well, to the playtest to talk about. So it's going to be 2023 is going to be an exciting year. And then 2024 is the 50th anniversary of Dungeons & Dragons. It's going to be a big year.
Do we get the movie?
Movie comes out March 2023 or April. Yeah. This next year. So yeah.
So we'll be doing that. And then the only other thing I was thinking about is, what new stuff could we do with the show? Trying to, at some point I'd like to figure out what other stuff could we do here. Like, we've been doing it for 5 years now and figure out, hey, what's another cool thing we can do, or what's other stuff we can add to it. I still like doing the Paizo news, and I still like getting into that pretty deep and talking about these other games. But I also, I'm looking forward to it. I'm still having so much fun and gaming and tabletop stuff and going to Gen Cons and meeting people and going to some of the conventions. I want to get to more conventions next year. I want to get to probably maybe Gen Con and maybe a PAX of some sort again, probably would be mine. Maybe I was looking at Marmalade Dog, which is the one that's up here, but maybe a Dragon Con or one of these other ones that I haven't gone to
yet.
Gamehole
Con is big, I think.
I've been to that one once.
I want to go to PAX Unplugged,
but it's popular.
Yeah, I really want to go to PAX Unplugged, so that might be my goal. Yeah. But I hate flying, so I don't know.
I want to go to PAX West, the original PAX.
Yeah, I can drive there.
We're also thinking about maybe an Australian trip next year to go to Australia, and that's something that's on our bucket list.
That'd be awesome.
And then we get to meet Danimal, but also they have PAX Australia, so maybe I knock off two things with one stone.
There we go. Well, thank you guys so much for listening, for watching, for hanging out, being awesome.
Tell us what your New Year's resolutions are.
Oh, I don't know. I want to write more.
I meant our community
community,
yeah.
Let us know in the comments below what you're going to be working on for 2023.
Tell us what you're doing.
And then we'll see you all in 2023. It's going to be awesome.
And make sure you go to the Discord if you're interested in being in the Pathfinder 2 game.
We'll make a subgroup or something in the Looking for Games group. And Lucian, if you want to start organizing that, for sure. So
definitely.
You're awesome. Take care. And we'll see you all next week. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.